The computer asks if he would like to end the simulation. He says that he does, and the computer says that it is now ending the simulation with 36. Oh, those are the times that we know things that are there, but we can't find them because we look for them. We try to find them. We cannot see them because we took off our glasses, and everything's fuzzy, and it's not there. If that's not a first blooper, I don't know what is. Hello there, heroes. I'm the Orange Ranger, and welcome to another Power Rangers Hyperforce session review. This session, lucky or unlucky as you might see it, number 13. One of the things that I always say is so great about Hyperforce is how it just makes 3 hours seem to fly by on a Tuesday night. I often hear Power Rangers fans say, I would watch Hyperforce, it sounds really interesting, but 3 hours is just too much to ask. And listen, I understand that. I totally understand that RPGs aren't for everybody, and that even if you do like RPGs, 3 hours is a lot of time to dedicate to one. Totally get that, and all of us Hyperforce fans should accept that if that's what it comes down to. When you're evangelizing the show, for lack of a better term, please don't try to push people past, I just don't have the time, or RPGs just aren't something I'm interested in. You know, don't be that guy or that girl. That being said, it just never feels like 3 hours for me. It just always seems to fly by with how interesting and exciting the plot always is. And then there's this week. But let's just go ahead and take a look at the 13th session of Hyperforce, the calm before the force. First things first, this session already stood to be a little less zany, as Hyperforce was unfortunately Vesperless this week. Christina had a recent bout with the flu, and while recovering, lost her voice. And seeing as Christina V's primary career is as a voice actress, that's kind of a big deal. So some rest and recovery was definitely on order. Once again, don't worry, she's okay. She's recently said that her voice has come back. Everything's good there. Wearing black in her honor. Just kidding, I always wear black. We start with Eddie wandering around the ship feeling restless. He finds Jack in the main control area, walks up next to him, and sighs. Jack asks if Eddie needs anything, and the two start having a chat. Eddie says that he has always solved his problems through a mixture of intelligence and knowledge of history. But the Alliance is just baffling him. He feels like they're always a step behind them. Jack watches the screens for a second as the hyperstream, the mixture of time and space, flies by them, and says, Eddie's right. They have been living in reaction mode, waiting for the Alliance to make a move and then responding to it. Jack does realize that living that way can be tough, but tells Eddie that they have to stay strong. Eddie asks if he was ever in situations like that in his time as a cop, and Jack says of course. As a matter of fact, he was just a regular city cop for 10 years before transferring to the Time Force. Eddie asks Jack about his family, how they felt about him making that move, and we finally get some of Jack's backstory. It turns out that Jack also has some family tragedy in his past, though his is less nebulous than Marv and Chloe's. His parents died, and I mean confirmed dead, during the mutant wars of the early 3000s, which, if I'm hearing that right, is basically the events of Power Rangers Time Force. It was Jack's grandfather who helped him build Forge, his robotic dog. And no, his grandparents did not approve of his transfer to the Time Force, but it was his decision to make. Eddie says that it also wasn't in his parents' plans for him to join the Time Force. Why? Because he is Eddie Banks. Eddie Banks, the 25th of the ultra-rich, super business Banks family. He actually re-alludes to his arranged marriage with Bianca, saying that their family saw that as just another business deal, creating a strong merger, if you will. Jack tells Eddie that he is not a disappointment, and even if his parents don't approve of what he's doing, history will likely remember him as the greatest of the Banks family, the one that finally broke away from the life of ease and comfort in order to dedicate himself to public service, and then became a Power Ranger and ended up saving all of time. With Vesper AFK, it was left to Chloe to carry the weird quotient all by herself, so we find her wandering the halls of the ship, carrying the InstaKitchen 3000 like a sick baby and crying over it. Alpha finds her and asks what's going on. She says that she's looking for Vesper to make her fix this thing because she just can't handle the health food it's spitting out anymore. Alpha, she can't eat any more kale. She thinks she's turning green. Ironically enough, just a couple of days before this session, Megan actually made a video on her Strawberry 17 channel, and one of the things she mentioned is that she's actually starting to like kale. Alpha stammers that Vesper's not here. She's unavailable at the moment. She's not... Oh, keeping human secrets is so hard. Vesper's working on a project. Until Chloe asks about it again, and suddenly this time Vesper is taking a nap. Though I suppose you could call a nap a project. A sleep project. Fortunately for Alpha, Chloe's a little too burrito withdrawn to notice this. We find Marv right back in the cold white jail cell covered in fog. He gets up, pulls out his claws, and starts attacking the jail cell bars. Primator then rises from the fog. Marv attacks him, but Primator turns into Joe, but Marv still attacks anyway. Joe dodges and asks him, what is he doing? He pulls out his blade blaster and declares it's his intention to cut Joe's head off. Malika reminds Peter that this is Power Rangers, and he says, he's so mad anyway that he'll probably miss. He does indeed miss, and then hears somebody making monkey noises off to his side. He looks over, and it's just Chloe, and it of course turns out that this is the pocket dimension for training. Marv ends the simulation, and she says that she's just looking for somebody to talk to. He says he was just, doing some training, working on his weapons, no big deal. The computer asks if he'd like to repeat the simulation, and he says no, he's ready to end it. The computer says very well, ending the simulation after 36 cycles. Marv, you alright there, buddy? Bypassing this for the moment, Chloe decides to talk about what she came to talk about. Seeing Joe alive has given her the hope that maybe her parents are actually alive. Time Force did tell her that they had died, as opposed to saying that Joe was missing in action, but they still never found the body, so maybe there's a chance. Marv is actually kind of growing frustrated with the fact that Time Force seems to be keeping secrets from them, but Chloe actually trusts the Time Force. Marv, however, is unconvinced and is actually getting kind of insulted. They are the Power Rangers now. They should know everything there is to know. Along that same vein, Joe told Marv not to follow him, but now he thinks that maybe they should, especially since following Joe might lead to some information about Chloe's parents. She says that would be wonderful, but neither of them have any idea how to contact Joe. And this makes Marv sink back a little into his own insecurities. He cheated to get onto the Time Force, thus where he was when he became a Power Ranger. He doesn't even know if he should be a Power Ranger, let alone their leader. Chloe supports him though. He's not their leader by random chance. They designated him their leader, and their faith is in him. Marv says that he's tired of thinking about his problems right now and asks Chloe to talk about herself, anything, any kind of issue that she wants to talk about, as long as it's about her. She admits that she actually feels much like him, that she's kind of felt like a double agent on the Time Force, that she shouldn't be where she is because she hasn't been honest about why she's there. She only joined the Time Force in order to find information about her parents. She's only a Ranger now because she was trying to steal evidence, and she actually admits to Marv something that I alluded to in a past session, that it wasn't Robin Hood-style wasted tech she wanted to give to the less fortunate. It was documentation about her parents. And now, because of what many people would term to be a bad decision, not only is she a Power Ranger, she was given a mystical gem by King Arthur himself that has made her the Pink Battle Warrior. Does she even deserve any of this? Marv says that she absolutely does. Her joy and lightheartedness are her strength, and if there's any sign more than the others that this was fate, it's the fact that she was granted the powers of the Phoenix, rising from the ashes of her pain to choose joy and happiness. Chloe says that all that joy and lightheartedness is actually a cover-up for her pain, and that's something that confuses Marv. For the first time, we really see a key difference between Kyanians and humans. As Marv says, Kyanians are extremely direct with their emotions. When they're happy, they act happy. When they're angry, they act angry. When they're sad, they cry. So they're kind of like Betazoids in that way, very direct and very forward. Interesting. Alpha then walks in and gives Chloe possibly the best news she's ever gotten in her life. The Insta-Kitchen is actually not broken exactly. It's just that the burrito recipes were accidentally deleted. Marv leaves Chloe to teaching Alpha to put those burrito recipes back into the Insta-Kitchen, but we actually stay with them as Alpha tells Chloe that he noticed Marv running that simulation over and over and over and over. And Chloe explains what Marv's going through. She wonders if Jen Scotts could possibly help with this. As the now acting director of the Time Force, maybe she could provide some information, some answers about why Joe had to be hidden away, or at least some comforting words. So, Alpha has Chloe deliver a holographic message to deliver to Jen. More or less, Marv is hurting, we trust you, but he could really use some answers. Marv meets up with Eddie and Jack says the two of them were just having a little green time. Green time, you know, blue and yellow time. Paul's joke, not mine. They have a discussion that honestly serves as kind of a plot recap to this point. Marv wonders why the Alliance would want Primator and Scorpina. Eddie tries to remember aspects about the two of them from history, but the dice don't want him to remember that, so all he can really remember is stuff that they have dealt with in the present, so to speak. As Chloe enters, they theorize that it might be involved with recruiting for the Alliance. Scorpina has the ability to seduce people, and Primator can change into other people that might be able to convince folks to join the Alliance. Jack says that the first prong of that sort of plan would have been to get a time ship in order to go back in time and make the rest of that possible. That actually brings up something that Marv was planning to talk to Jack about in private, but I mean, everybody's here, no time like the present. Marv asks Jack if he knows anything about Joe's mission, seeing as they were very close in classes at the academy and their time together, so they knew each other very well and he might have some information. Jack swears to Marv that if he had known anything about Joe being alive, he would have told him right away. However, Time Force does often have missions that need to be kept top secret. As a matter of fact, Jack has participated in a couple of them, usually just operating a transporter, but still. The key to all this, Jack says, is who sent Joe on his mission. Was it actually a legitimate Time Force officer? Or was it a secret Alliance member? Jack wonders if they knew they were going to be able to go back in time and get Primator and Scorpina. Why did they need to bother with a virus to take control of the cadets at the academy that rebelled, the dean, etc.? Malika takes a moment to remind the players that the virus was their assumption. That was not proven, they don't know that for sure. They wondered then about the Alliance leader, this strange figure, always hidden in a cloak, even on his own ship, having these strange magical powers. Jack wonders again, if he is so powerful and magical, what did they need with a virus? Malika, feeling a little bit frustrated at this coming right back up again, this time uses Alpha to insert this information directly into the plot. There was no virus. No mind control, at least not overtly. All the signs at the time pointed at all of the cadets and the officials and the officers that rebelled against the Time Force, doing so of their own free will. The Rangers are actually a little bit shaken by this. Apparently, it's just something that they didn't realize. Marv said that when he was captured on board the Alliance ship, he heard the Alliance leader talking about Zordon. This reminds Eddie to share his theory about them going back to prevent the Z-Wave and joining forces with the United Alliance of Evil, blah, 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 blah. This is something that actually scares the Rangers down to their core, even more than the whole free will thing for the Time Force cadets. Jack says that just defeating Andros wouldn't be enough, because Zordon could just have another ranger or even just another person nearby do the same thing. They would have to capture Zordon themselves. Then we take kind of a left turn in the plot, and I will warn you in advance that this doesn't really go anywhere, so I'm going to try to skim through it. It might be setting up plot for down the road, I'm not sure. Marv says that he remembers something about Zordon setting up or mentoring or empowering some other creature. His name was, Gosei? Eddie remembers Gosei from history and that he was somehow involved with another team of Power Rangers. However, he just can't quite seem to remember the details because the dice just don't want him to. So, staying as general as the random number generation will allow him to, Eddie says that he remembers something about Zordon setting up this Gosei, and that if that were not to happen, this other team of Power Rangers that he can't remember wouldn't exist, and then that team of Rangers wouldn't be there to do whatever it is that they actually did. Jack tries to say that the morphing grid transcends Zordon, that this is all bigger than Zordon. However, the others do not agree. Zordon is definitely the key to all of this. And then Malika has to crack her GM whip again and tells everybody at those tables who just said the word grid to do a lore check. All of them fail the roll, and she clarifies the situation to them. None of these Rangers know what the morphing grid is. They are not experienced and were not far enough in their classes enough to have learned about it. All they know and understand at this point is that there is some kind of greater power that seems to connect all of those who call themselves Power Rangers, even, as it turns out, the Knights of the Round Table. They begin theorizing even more, wondering about if the Alliance could have captured the missing Time Force Rangers in order to make their own Rangers, or if instead those Rangers have gone deep undercover just like Joe was. Why did the Alliance want to capture Alpha in the first place? And if you think that this is pretty far into this review without talking about any sort of action, all I can tell you is that you are not the only one. As if in response, the plot excitement alarm goes off as Alpha has detected a temporal disturbance. 2005, Briarwood, California. Outside of the plot, you folks might remember that Briarwood was the home of the Mystic Force Power Rangers. You also may remember that Mystic Force took place in the year 2006, meaning the Hyperforce Rangers will be arriving a year before anything went down in Briarwood. The disturbance is actually incredibly general this time. It's not like anybody's disappearing from time or anything. It's just that a large portal is going to open in the woods outside Briarwood that was not recorded in history. If a large portal opens in the woods and nobody's around to see it, is it recorded in history? Jack actually has an incredibly intelligent idea here, and even the others playing in the session praised Paul for thinking this far ahead. The Hyperforce Rangers can actually transport themselves to one day before the portal opens. This will give them plenty of time to acclimate, learn about the area and any possible situations before it's go time. I'm sensing kind of an opportunity to fast forward through some stuff here, so I'm going to kind of skim through some of the stuff that happens right now. The Rangers teleport down to Briarwood, and Alpha puts them in the clothing that their actors are actually wearing, sitting at the table, interestingly enough. The Rangers think to start looking around for big-headed mentors and cute teenagers wearing primary colors, because they don't actually realize they've teleported into a year that there were no Power Rangers. They do see a candy store nearby. Chloe tries to be good and resist at first and focus on the mission, but then she sees a little boy pull his mother inside of the store, and for some reason, her instincts say that they just need to go and investigate that. She's actually being serious, not just a candy hound. She really thinks they need to look into it. The other Rangers are convinced, so they go. Inside, the Rangers learn about candy and also learn that people disappear when they go into the woods. Then, some fire trucks go by, and the Rangers figure that that would be a time for heroic primary-colored teenagers to converge. Again, they don't know. But all they find there are people in need of saving. Jack saves a little girl on the first floor. Marv rescues a man and his dog, Bubbles, from the second floor, even pushing away some burning awnings so they can get to safety. Eddie finds an old woman on the third floor, stops her from jumping out of a window to try to get out of the building, and starts to rescue her, but then some falling debris blocks their escape. Having no other choice, he wraps her up in a rug for safety, throws her over his shoulder, and morphs.
Hyperforce! Blue! Ready! Power up!
He uses his water powers to put out the fires that are in the way, and then manages to toss her safely down to Jack and the firefighters down on the ground. Up on the fourth floor, Chloe asks if there's anybody available that can help her out. The morphed Eddie heads up there and convinces her to morph as well.
Hyperforce! Heat! Ready! Power up!
She uses her Phoenix Feathers attack to push a lot of the smoke out of the building so they can see better. The wind also flings open all the doors, and they find a young woman and a baby. The Rangers explain to the woman that they're, firefighters. Yeah, advanced tech division, really cutting-edge stuff. As the building starts collapsing, they get the two of them down the stairs and out. As the Rangers recuperate, Alpha calls with an important message. The portal is opening now. This is like half a day early from the time that they had set, so Jack and Marv find a place to hide and they're all teleported over there. The woods feel strange to the Rangers, almost as if they've crossed into day for night territory. Between two trees, they see the large portal that they're looking for, and it leads to a very strange place. A long, white, winding road leading to a gigantic white building the size of a Megazord hangar. I don't think we're in Alliance anymore, Alpha. Eddie looks for ropes, vines, anything that he could tie around himself and enter the portal safely, able to be pulled back, but he can't find anything. So Chloe just channels Marv and just charges right in. She seems to be okay, so the others follow. That main white road leads them, like I said, to a gigantic white building, and as they get closer, they notice the building has two giant M's on it. The doors fling open, and a booming voice beckons them to make their way in. They do so, although I'd imagine it was a bit tricky, seeing as it has 6-foot-tall steps. By the way, that voice spooks Jack and Marv just enough that they decide to morph.
Power up!
Up on a gigantic platform, the Rangers see a gigantic woman, all in white robes and wearing an M as a sort of crown. And seriously, she's about as big as a Megazord. Marv asks the woman who she is. She says that over the years, she's been known by many names, but as of right now, she is known as the Empress of All Good Magic. That is right, heroes. The Hyperforce Rangers have been summoned by the Mystic Mother. She was the one who opened the portal to bring them here since she knew that they were Power Rangers. Of course, they're standing in front of her already morphed, so it's kind of obvious that they are Power Rangers, but she knew about that beforehand, apparently, and Chloe asks how that was possible. The Mystic Mother says she knew about them before they ever even existed. She knew about them, or she knew about Power Rangers? Perhaps both. Chloe senses something of an opportunity here. It's pretty clear we're dealing with a real wise lady that knows a lot. Maybe we should ask her our questions. Marv asks why she brought them there. She says that it was obvious to her that they were lost. Eddie explains that they were looking for the Alliance, and oddly, for somebody so supposedly all-knowing, the Mystic Mother doesn't know anything about the Alliance. She's never even heard of them. When they bring up that the Alliance maybe want to save Zordon, she gets very, very angry. They cannot do that. They cannot change history that way. If Zordon's sacrifice is prevented, she realizes she has no choice but to reveal the truth to them. In the dark days of the early 1990s, before HDTV and ubiquitous internet, the Mystic Mother was known as Rita Repulsa. She even slips into Rita for a second. And by the way, Malika's Rita rivals Amy Jo Johnson's in terms of accuracy. If Zordon is not allowed to sacrifice himself for the greater good of the universe, she will remain Rita Repulsa and would just continue growing in evil power right alongside Lord Zed. Jack encourages Chloe to keep asking questions, so she says, "Whatever happened to Lord Zed, by the way?" That is an excellent question, especially considering the fact that Power Rangers Super Legends was a terrible video game, and I don't think anybody should consider it canon. The Mystic Mother is incredibly vague about this, just saying that he pursued his own path in the service of goodness. Mystic Mother then starts isolating the Rangers in these one-on-one conversations in order to help them. She starts with Chloe and says that curiosity should always be rewarded. Allow me to enhance your power. She gives Chloe a +1 bonus to her stealth. That's a nice little bonus, right? Oh, heroes, it is far nicer than you realize. Because remember that Santa has already granted Chloe a +1 to stealth, and she actually started the game with a +1 to stealth. Chloe is now +3 in stealth, and it gets even better than that. If Chloe has access to a super, which is a +2, she cannot fail a stealth check. The lowest you can roll on a d6 is 1, plus a super's +2 is 3, +3 to stealth is 6, and that's the highest you can roll on a single die. Chloe's stealth is OP, but please not to nerf, K thanks. She then asks Chloe what is holding her back from fully pursuing her fight against evil as a Power Ranger. Chloe, ensuring that this is a private conversation, says that she is terrified of the idea that if she were forced to choose between the Rangers and her parents, that she would choose her parents. And honestly, good Rita gives her an incredibly trite response to this, just telling Chloe to look inside herself and that she knows what the answer would be. She turns to Eddie. Your turn, Blue Boy. She tells him that he is the glue that holds his team together, and he says that this is his family now. So, what is it that's holding him back? Eddie fears being alone. Never good with friends, the disapproval of his family, having a marriage arranged before he ever even found love, finding love with Vesper and there being issues there, etc. She tells Eddie to look around. This is indeed your family now. You are never alone. This family is never going to forsake you. His love for his teammates just explodes, and he gets a +1 bonus to his teamwork, so that's now +2. Jack's turn. She asks him if he truly believes that they will one day defeat the Alliance. He admits that he's not sure. His frustration is that he has given his entire life to the public service, but yet he feels empty. He knows that others have done the same and have been incredibly fulfilled by that, and that's what he wants for himself. Mystic Mother drops what is kind of becoming her trite answer at the moment, that the answer lies within you, and that what he needs to do is step forward boldly and with determination go down his path. By the way, this +1 to your intimidation, which to be honest is I don't think a technique I've ever seen Jack actually use, should help. So Marv, what is it that you need or fear? Oh, nothing, I'm good, I'm perfectly fine. As if to reveal that he cannot hide anything from her, she strips away his ranger suit, and then he sees a vision. All of the other Rangers, and Joe, morphed, turning from him and walking away. This is his fear, that he doesn't deserve to be a Power Ranger, that he shouldn't be with them. Even seeing that vision, Marv says that what he really needs is to know where his brother is. Oh, Marv, so close, but you speak from selfishness. Your brother, Joe, acts out of selflessness. Do you really believe in him and his abilities? He realizes that she's right and asks what he should do. She asks him in turn who the leader of the Hyperforce Rangers is. He says it's him, but, he was shoved into that position by necessity. She asks him the question again, whom has acted as the Hyperforce Rangers leader? He says that actually all of them have kind of acted as the leader at one point or another. In fact, it's Jack that has the most experience. She says, maybe he's right. There is a lot that Marv can learn from Jack. All right, let's give out some more presents. She brings the Rangers back together and tells them to pull out their weapons. She then instructs the Rangers on how to combine them, summoning Vesper's disc from the heavens, I guess, to land on top and form the Hypervortex Blaster. Pointing down that long, white road, she reveals to them that the door and the portal are now gone. It's just the long, white road. She tells the Rangers to remember the fears that they shared with her and then visualize something that relates to them. Chloe sees her parents, frowning in disapproval. Eddie sees Bianca standing in his way. Jack sees snarling mutants hurting people. Marv at first says he doesn't see anything, but then when he checks again, he sees himself. He asks the Good Witch of the North about this, but she says it's perfectly normal and fine. His biggest obstacle is himself, his own faults. But above all this, the Rangers must remember that the primary threat is the Alliance. They threaten everything that is good and true in the universe and time. Eddie asks her who the Alliance is, who is their leader, but she will not answer, simply telling them to fire their new weapon. It coats them in a kind of positive energy before lancing forward, destroying all the visions in their path. The entire world starts to glow white, and the Rangers find themselves right back on their ship. They take stock of their situation and realize that they all feel more determined than they ever have. Chloe is ready to end the Alliance at all costs. Marv apologizes to his team. He has never acted much like a leader. He didn't even know why he was made the Red Ranger. He says once again that he doesn't think the color should matter, just feeling like it was the random morpher that he was handed out of the box. But now he knows that his team has put their faith in him, and that is something he must honor. Leading this team is even more important than finding Joe. Jack remembers that they came to Briarwood in 2005 for a reason and has Alpha scan for the portal and the time anomaly. However, the anomaly is gone. The Rangers realize that the portal was never actually an invisiportal. It was the Mystic Mother all along. She really did summon them here. Then they get a message from Time Force, and it's Abigail. She has two bits of important news to share. The first is that she is now wearing a very spiffy white Time Force uniform. She has graduated from Time Force Academy and become a full Time Force officer. Which means that Marv, Chloe, Eddie, and Vesper have as well. The four of them are cadets no more. Secondly, and far more importantly, Jen has asked Abigail to extend her deepest apologies both to Marv and the She family. She insists that she knew nothing about Joe's mission, and as acting director of Time Force, all information about Joe's mission is being declassified. As a matter of fact, Joe is now under orders to return to Time Force and Jen for reassignment, since they could really use another Ranger in this war. However, there is a small problem with that. Joe's handler, his one contact when he's deep undercover, is Trip. And Trip is missing in action. And since Jen does not know why Trip is missing in action, that's not exactly a good sign. The Hyperforce Rangers are now under official orders to retrieve Joe and return him to the Time Force. The only last information that they have on his mission said that he was headed for the year 2025 and New Tech City. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, we have gone from the year that SPD aired to the year that it actually took place. They received the information about Joe's mission as well as historical information about the year 2025. There's information about people there suddenly saying, our goal is evil, our mission is evil, evil is our goal, the Alliance catchphrase. However, there is no historical information yet about the Alliance actually having been in the year 2025. Alpha brings up how the actual first human-alien contact, official contact anyway, took place with the official founding of Earth's SPD branch in the year 2015. And as it turned out, this was Malika giving them a chance to travel back to 2015 instead. However, Alpha also speculates that if Joe left before the Alliance made their first move, he may not even know that the Alliance exists, and if that's true, he could be heading into danger he doesn't know anything about. Deciding that that is more important, the Hyperforce Rangers blast off for the year 2025. Those of you who have watched this channel pretty regularly know by now that I'm not very good at hiding when I'm not exactly satisfied with something. I think it's something that actually serves me pretty well as a reviewer. I kind of can't help but have my honest opinion bubble up to the surface. First, let me say that I thought the plot was excellent this week. We finally got backstory on Jack, and the Mystic Mother's one-on-ones with the Rangers really centered in and honed in on their insecurities and really tied a lot of the plot together. For 12 sessions now, the plot has served as 2 slices of just nice honey wheat sliced bread with 4 or 5 slices of meaty action right in between for a nice delicious sandwich. Here on Unlucky 13, we got 1 or 2 slices of meaty action shoved in the middle of a giant loaf of plot that had been just sliced in half down the middle. I am sorry, my friends, there was just far too much talking this time. Summing this session up together really generally, the Rangers get together on the ship and they talk. They then head to Briarwood and wander around. Then they save some people from a fire. That's the 1 or 2 slices of meaty action. But to be fair, it wasn't even punching monsters or getting in Zords. It was just being firefighters in spandex. Then they go see the Mystic Mother and they talk. They fire their new combo weapon at things that aren't even real. Then they get back on the ship and they talk. Go punch something. Ranger Liz, and if you're not subscribed to her channel by now, Vesper's gonna come and eat your computer, theorized that this was kind of the closest thing to a clip show that an RPG can have. Kind of a recap episode. Everybody got really heavy plot and backstory, even if it was stuff that we already knew about. I will admit that has a purpose, especially here at the halfway point, but I think I would have been happier with it if just simply the fire had been replaced with 1 monster fight. I mean, heck, they were in Briarwood. You could set that fight in the woods and have them fighting one of the mystical creatures that lives there. It's not even something that had to be associated with the Alliance. Now, please don't get me wrong. I still love, how strong and complex and deep Hyperforce's plot is. However, there is such a thing as too much of a good thing. As much as it pains me to say this, Calm Before the Force gets a 3 out of 5. That's going to do it for another Power Rangers Hyperforce session review. Thank you folks so much as always for watching. Make sure to like the video by clicking the like button right down below. In the comments below, let me know what you thought of this session. I have a feeling this is going to be a one people either really liked or really didn't like, so let me know what you thought. And Thumpers, check in. Make sure to subscribe to the channel to see all of my videos, and make sure you ring that bell and get your notifications set up so you get notified of whenever I post brand new videos just like this Power Rangers Hyperforce session review. And if you liked the work I did on this episode, even though it was kind of critical, head to digitaltipjar.com/orangerangervid. You can toss a little bit of change in my digital tip jar. I greatly appreciate anything that lands in there. Until next time, heroes, may the power protect you, and go Hyperforce. Hello there, heroes. I'm the Orange Ranger, and welcome to another Power Rangers Hyperforce session review. I understand that not RPG... As Hyperforce was Marv leaves Chloe to teaching Alpha Soup. Jack points out that they couldn't just go back and just defeat or erase Andros. That wouldn't be enough. Who is Andros? I don't know. His name is Andros. Jack says that defeating or erasing Andros wouldn't be enough. That they would have to... Well, I mean, yeah. If a portal opens in the wood and nobody's around to see it, if a portal opens in the wood. Let me clarify that one. That voice, back in the farts, I missed a line. And the Mystic Mother says that she knew about them before they were even born. She knew, crap, not before they were born, before they ever existed, because that means Power Rangers. Even seeing that vision, Marv says that what he really needs, I think this got messed up. Jack's handler, he went undercover before the Alliance made their first move. However, there is such a thing as too much of a good thing.